Back in 2020, in celebration of Mario's 35th anniversary, Nintendo held a direct in which they announced the future releases of several Mario games for the Switch. Among these few were three of the most popular titles releasing within the 3D All-Stars bundle, along with the announcement of Super Mario 3D World, which would release in 2021 alongside a brand new side game known as Bowser's Fury. At the time, this announcement caused immeasurable hype, as the eerie trailer gave an impression which few Mario games ever had before. There was a ton of mystery surrounding multiple aspects of Bowser's Fury, such as where it would take place, which characters would be playable, how long it would be, among many other questions. Well, once 2021 came and this game released, we finally got to experience this odd little side adventure, so today I'd like to dive in to see what made this game stand apart from the rest of the Mario games, along with what it took from the previous titles in order to benefit the overall experience. So the story here is extremely simple. Basically, Mario falls into a weird portal which takes him to a totally new location known as Lake Lapcat. One thing that becomes immediately apparent is that Bowser's Fury plays much more like an open 3D Mario game, even sporting a free camera. The introduction is perfect as right from the get-go, we are forced to collect a cat shine in order to temporarily put Bowser into hiding. After this we meet up with Bowser Jr., and he asks Mario to help him calm his dad down. It's actually pretty heartwarming seeing Bowser Jr. like this, and it makes for a great change of pace because Bowser Jr. is rarely ever partners with Mario. So as the name implies, Lake Lapcat is inhabited by all things cat related. This means that literally every single enemy in the game has cat ears, which is a little weird at first, but it's a cool change from the usual formula as a simple tweak to the enemies makes this location feel even more unique and off-putting. The main goal of Bowser's Fury is to collect cat shines, which were no doubt inspired by the moons from Mario Odyssey. In fact, this entire game feels like a sort of mini spiritual successor to Odyssey. For starters, these cat shines are collected in much the same way as the moons were, where they add to a total count, which further progresses the game and allows you to access more parts of the map. This actually feels like it could have been one massive kingdom in Odyssey. There is one thing done differently though, that being the movement. This game's mechanics were completely taken from 3D World. Therefore, traversal is exactly the same, meaning there is no triple jump, and the moves we do have are just the exact same as 3D World. This all serves to make Bowser's Fury an exact middle ground between Odyssey and 3D World, which is great because now there are essentially three different forms of 3D Mario out there. The movement is basic like 3D World, but the level design, means of progression, are heavily inspired by 3D World. It really wouldn't be fair to compare this game in a lesser way to any other Mario game, as this truly does feel like its own unique experience. The main gimmick of Bowser's Fury is exactly what the name implies. Bowser is furious and your job is to take him down by collecting enough cat shines to collect the Giga Bell, which transforms Mario into an absolute beast and allows him to fight Bowser on even ground. This is another power-up which is unique to this experience, and its use is incredibly cool, as you really do feel unstoppable with it. Part of the reason the Giga Bell feels so special to use is because unlike other power-ups, you can't just collect it anytime you want. Instead, you must reach a certain amount of cat shines in order to awaken the bell, which you can then use to fight Bowser. I think the way the developers went about this was near flawless, as locking this insane power-up behind progression gives incentive to keep playing. And as for the fights with Fury Bowser himself, mechanically there's nothing that special, as it really is the atmosphere which completely draws you in and carries the experience. Once it starts to rain, and you look over to see Bowser's massive shell rising from the ground while eerie music plays, it's actually pretty intimidating. But the fights themselves usually just involve you waiting for the chance to ground pound underneath his shell, and while I do like throwing these giant blocks at him, the fights never really change, so they can get quite repetitive over time. As far as the levels go, well, as mentioned earlier, this game takes place in Lake Lapcat, which is basically just one giant island consisting of multiple little islands spread throughout. On these islands there are several challenges to partake in, all of which reward you with the cat shine upon completion. There are 5 challenges per island, and the cool part is, once you collect a cat shine, you need to go to a different island before returning to your previous location in order for the challenge to respawn. What I like about this is that it forces you to explore other parts of the map, so upon returning to the previously completed challenge, there's always something new to accompany you. There's a ton of unique little minigames to partake in, and most of the time, these are a blast, but unfortunately, Bowser's Fury works on a downward trajectory, where the game gets slightly worse the further you go. This is due to a few things. For one, the challenges grow quite a bit stale over time, as many of them start to repeat themselves, which can cause the game to drag on if you're looking to collect every shine. For example, the missions with Plessy grow old very fast as it really isn't too enjoyable to just race through a linear obstacle course multiple times. I do like how Plessy is used in the final battle, but I'll get to that soon. Another issue I found is that the more shines you collect, the faster Fury Bowser appears. Now this actually works great in the beginning, but as soon as you reach about 60 to 70 cat shines, he literally starts to show up in a matter of minutes. In particular, towards the very end, he'll show up within a single minute, and I'm not even joking. This can become a huge distraction and a nuisance because due to there not being much shines left to collect at this point, you could easily find yourself running around aimlessly until Bowser decides to go away. Again, this mechanic is actually very nice at first, but rapidly declines with the progression throughout the game. Now, one thing that doesn't decline is the soundtrack. I really love the music here, as I just find it so comforting and relaxing to listen through. It's very unique, but still feels very much like Mario at the end of the day. I'd say Bowser's Fury has one of the most laid-back soundtracks in the 3D Mario games, and it fits the theme of a peaceful island perfectly. Everything from the peaceful Lake Lapcat to the incredible rendition of Bowser's theme from 3D World used in the final fight is sure to captivate you and enhance the experience that much more. A simple but very effective addition used here is how power-ups are handled. You can now store up to 5 separate items each, which comes in great handy, especially when you consider how vertical this game's layout is. It's always nice to have a spare Tanuki or Catsuit on you at all times. Unfortunately, the Gigabell is the only new power-up to come out of this experience, so I think it would have been nice to have at least one other totally unique item, as the Gigabell may be extremely exhilarating to use, but at the end of the day, it really is just a bigger version of the Catsuit. So earlier I briefly mentioned how Bowser Jr. is your companion this time around, but now I want to go over his actual usage. At the start of the game, you're given the choice to decide between 3 different options, those being the ability to have Bowser Jr. aid you a little bit, a lot, or not at all. I think this was a great move considering how hand-holding Nintendo has gotten with their games over the last few years. It was a nice change to see that we're actually given the option not to use Bowser Jr. at all if we don't want to. It's always great when the player is given a choice as to how they want to pursue their experience, so good on Nintendo for giving us a choice here. However, Bowser Jr. doesn't do too much if you decide to use him. In fact, I'd say his function is pretty good, because he never intrudes on the gameplay, only really serving to defeat a few enemies here and there, and collect any loose power-ups. As for the final battle itself, I think this one was handled pretty great. It's neat to see Plessy being put to more use, as we need to ride on its back while knocking these cat bells into Bowser. As I stated earlier, the soundtrack is great here, and the gameplay is super exhilarating. It doesn't drag on for too long, and lasts about exactly how long a fight in this game should last. It doesn't try to be something it's not, just straight to the point action, and I love it. The ending is great too, with Plessy completely crushing Bowser with the Gigabells. So there you have it. Bowser's Fury was meant to serve as a middle ground between Super Mario Odyssey and 3D World, and in my opinion, it pulled this role off almost perfectly. This is a great little side adventure that will only take a few hours to complete, but offers tons of content within those few short moments. It'll be interesting to see where Nintendo takes the future of 3D Mario, as we now have 3 different variants of the 3D series, but I feel like Bowser's Fury is one of a kind and won't be replicated anytime soon, as it really was just put out to complement the release of 3D World back in 2021. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.